Real talk only, this show ain't for the fake and the phony. Nah, we speaking it boldly, I'll give it the way that God told me. Yeah, I follow his lead, ain't what they want but I give what they need. Not when to compromise, never concede, cause I need the truth like the air that I breathe. My recommendation, if you wanna change generations, hit play, let's talk about keeping it real. We get it in these conversations, yeah.
Welcome to Candid Conversations. I'm your host, Aaron Cooley, and this is the official first episode. So what up, y'all? We just winging it. I got my bomb sister, Joelle Marshall, on here, Joelle Marshall, and so we're just going to be chatting it up, talking about some things, some life and stuff. So, yeah, without further ado, all right, Joel, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about perspectives and perception.
Oh, perception. I wasn't ready for that one. She just threw that word in there. Perspective and perception. Okay.
I think those are one and the same.
You think perspective and perception? I feel like perception.
I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll say that. Okay. So how are we starting this off? You had some thoughts. We were talking about this earlier. You had some thoughts about it.
My thoughts about it mostly have just been existential, really. It's just more along the lines of just constantly in the back of my mind, like, why am I in the body that I'm in? Why can I see what I see? Why do I have these eyes? Why do I have these ears? Why do I have this family? Why was I not born with fetal alcohol syndrome? Why do I speak English? Like, why was I born in America? Why am I not somebody else? Like, what makes me me and not somebody else? I guess things like that.
All right, this is jumped to a whole different than what I was ready for, but that's what candidacy is all about. Hey, okay, so we're talking about.
What were you thinking that it was going to be?
I had no clue. Like I said, we just out here. So you're saying you just being outside. Okay, so why are you, right? That's pretty much what you're saying.
Right.
What?
That, and there's also the added part of a lot of the times when I'm in public, I'm looking at all these people that I'm around, and I'm like, wow, these people are seeing, they're seeing and they're hearing and they're talking and like all just like me, they're breathing just like me. They all have like a life. You know, all these thousands of people that I'm around, if I go to the mall, every single one of these people has a life that I know nothing about. Like the craziest thing could have happened to them yesterday. And, it's just very wild.
So my friend BK always said this. He's like, bro, I think everyone else is NPCs. Like they just computer people running around and it's funny too, because we've listened to conversations randomly and it'll be a conversation that makes no sense and it just stops. Like it'd be like like in a game when you're walking by and a conversation starts and you can start hearing it, but you walk away, It just ends and you come back and it's like starts over. That's what would happen. He's like, bro, they can't be this many people just living. Like having
that's exactly my point where I'm like, it's very just weird and crazy to think that there are billions of people that are living just every day like me. And I also think about how extremely lucky I am and how crazy it is that even though I have my problems, I still wasn't born in like Syria. I still wasn't born in 1944 and lived through the Jim Crow era. Like it's just very wild to think about how many things had to fall in line for me to exist at this point in time.
Okay, so let me take, because we can go all kind of directions, but let me take that little idea you just put in there. All the little things, right, that had to fall in this specific way for you to be here, right? And you haven't even said anything about like how you actually got here, like your parents. Like you just talk about all the everything's around it. So that's one of the hardest things for me to understand for like as a believer And people are like, no, I don't believe in God. Or it just happens randomly, or, it's coincidence. It's like, how? Because if one thing changes, everything changes. And so it's like, it's so hard to call that coincidence, but there's too many, people, I've heard it said this way, that coincidences are God's way of saying anonymous. And so it's like, people are like, man, what a coincidence. And I'm like, so you just have coincidences every day, huh? You just, wow, that worked out just grand. But it's like, it's also a perspective thing to say, for you to even say, oh, we're blessed to be in America and all these other things, but we're living, because this is what I thought you were going to ask me, because when we were talking about it before, you were talking about how strange it is that you can see something and you can see yourself a certain way. And it's not just that other people see you differently. Each and every single person sees you in a different light.
A different version.
And it's not that it's right or wrong. It's just, okay, for example, if I ask people what my skin color is, one will say chocolate. And I'm like, chocolate. And one will say caramel. One will say a vanilla latte. And I'm like, wait a. But it's like they're seeing the same thing, but our perception of it is different. And so why did that not bother you? But what about that is you were talking about it and it seemed like you were like, this has been really on my mind.
I don't even really know. I guess a part of it is simultaneously, like you were saying, feeling like I'm the only real person, but also feeling like I'm not a real person at all. And I guess what I mean by that is, okay, for example, how you see me, it's just very wild to me how you can look at me. You're seeing me.
Mm-hmm.
You're perceiving me. And sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that's perceiving things. Of course I'm the only one in the world looking at this. And it's wild to think about how differently someone could be perceiving a situation or just perceiving what I'm doing. So it's made me a lot more conscious of just what I'm doing in public and what I look like and how I'm moving and how I'm acting. And it's honestly been kind of detrimental to me, overthinking it so much, because I've just suddenly become super aware of other people's perception of me.
Okay. You gotta hold up. You said a lot in there. Let's break that down. You're talking about, okay, I get exactly what you're saying, but why did you be more aware of people's perceptions, or your perception of people's perception? Why had that been detrimental rather than helpful?
Because it's just made me overthink everything. It's made me overthink the way that I'm walking, to the way that my mouth is moving, to the way that I'm moving my fingers or my hands when I'm talking. This is not just me being like, oh, I better not trip. That'll be really embarrassing. It's me literally being like, okay, I gotta one step in front of the other and make sure I'm not doing anything weird and moving my eyes or just really being hyper focused on what I look like.
That makes sense. Okay. That's interesting because first off, we've had many conversations about this and how so many people are unaware or unself-aware of themselves or others. They just out here living life, which we have never been that way. But now you're saying you just went the other direction and you just hypersensitive.
Right.
Which that's interesting only because I think in that, why that direction? Because I think for me, understanding that people perceive me differently makes me think a different way in the sense of because people love to say, I don't care what people think, or only God can judge me. I can do what I want. These are all true statements in some way, right? But it's also about being perceived. So for me, I moved into the area of this one of my favorite sayings now. I'm not saying, but things I want to live by: above reproach, meaning pretty much I rather do all the extraness so that even if I've done nothing wrong or I'm walking the way I'm supposed to, that even if people don't perceive it necessarily that way, because of how I'm walking, the evidence still proves no, that's still it. Because at the end of the day, you've seen that dress that was viral, the one that was either black or blue or gold or white. Literally my crew was just looking at that. They're like, no, it's this color. We're looking at the same thing, but see it differently. So sometimes there's going to be people in this world, no matter how you say it, no matter how you let the facts go, even if they was right there next to you during the whole situation, they're not going to see what you're going to see. There's nothing you can do about that. So that for me, that's like, okay, so it's foolish of me to be like, well, because
try to like
over correct, because it's like somebody going to think what they want to think. My job is only to my best ability to not add things onto me. So for perception, we were talking about this a couple days ago, where I was like, hey, I got a chain on right now, right? Mm-hmm. This is as big as it gets. You're not going to go see me no thick 5-inch chain. Is it because I think it's whack? Not necessarily. I think with some fits it be kind of cold and stuff, but just because of history, because of the time we live in, that doesn't help the perception of me. Whether it's true or not, that would be, I don't want to call it foolish, but foolish of me to be like, well, I get to do what I want. I'm gonna do this and do that. Like, if it's not helpful and it doesn't add to who I actually want people to see me as, why would I do it? Just to be like, well, I have free will.
Definitely, because while people do have free will, we also live in reality where it doesn't really matter. Stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. They're most likely always going to be there. And I mean, not to sound, I guess in things like racial profiling and things like that, I feel like it could be misconstrued as me being like victim blamey, like, oh, they should be able to do whatever they want. And that's true. They should be, but that's not how reality is. Yeah.
Listen, did we already have this conversation slightly on that specific topic?
We might have.
Probably. We talk often, but no, that's the whole thing too. That, like, for example, so you're my sister, I have 4 sisters. I got no brothers. Someone asked me before, they're like, so if you had girls, would you treat them differently than if you had boys? Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. Like, the rules are going to be, like, my standards for you are going to be the same. The rules are going to be slightly different because it's the world we live in. So I would never blame a female for what happened to them, whether they went to a party and got drunk, whether wrong is wrong, period. There's no justification for wrong. But at the same time, or I should not say but, and at the same time, there has to be some understanding of the world we live in. Like, is it right? No. But it's like, I care more about my safety, your safety, than, I want to do what I want. Because
because I feel like people misunderstand. Like, we're not saying that it's right. No, we know it's wrong. It's just that we can't do anything about it right now.
Yeah.
So we just kind of have to work with what we got,
And we're still talking about perception, but like, back to the idea, I want to like touch base back on that idea of you talking about, like, you see you in one lens, right? Everyone else sees you in a different lens. How does that make you, outside of like, oh, I overcorrect, what else did that make you think about? Or is there anything else that's been bothering you? Because we've kind of talked about it, but you were like, yeah, this really has been something I've been thinking about.
I don't even really know. It's just crazy to me. Like, everything I'm thinking about, like, why am I me? Mm-hmm. Why, like, Griffin views me differently than how you view me.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are going to be some things in common, but just like the way that you look at me is going to be different. You view me different than Genesis views me, even.
For those audience, that's a boyfriend and other sister. She just out here throwing names out. Just.
I'm unexperienced at this.
And we just out here. There ain't no difference.
But I don't know. I can't even pinpoint really why it's been bothering me, and maybe that's not the real thing that's been bothering me. Again, like I said, it's just been really existential. I've also been thinking a lot about how lucky I am and also how unlucky I am in some aspects. Like, one thing that I've really been thinking a lot about is like celebrities' children or children of like the very rich and how they're like actual people. I feel like we view celebrities' kids and like rich people and even celebrities themselves as kind of NPCs. Like, we know that they're there and we know that they're people, but I feel like we don't actually realize these are humans just like us. You know, they see things, they're hearing things, and that's been very wild for me to kind of like conceptualize. And like one thing, I think about Beyonce's kids a lot, or like the Kardashians' kids, how everything had to line up perfectly for them to be here and for them to be able to walk around and see things and hear things and speak English and walk. And they're doing it just like me. And for some reason, I can't conceptualize that. I can't, like, that's so weird. Like, it doesn't feel like they're real people.
Well,
I know that they are.
I think part of it is because the Perrys did a podcast about celebrities too, about like kind of the opposite though, that like people sometimes feel entitled to celebrities because they think they know them through social media, through their gifts and stuff. So they walk up and they just like
social relationship.
I'm gonna, hey, I know you, like you don't know me. But also on the flip side, like I'm also a human, like you're saying, like, but I think there's this balance of we weren't created to have this much interaction. Like we talk about how great social media is. It is. I don't think it's a bad thing, but it creates too much false. And like we always talk about like, man, there's so much access without connection. And I'm like, part of the problem is because we were never meant to have this much access. So we're saying like, but no one's actually connecting. It's because we were never created to have this much capacity where, okay, Jesus had he talked to plenty, right? Everyone, right? People knew Jesus. He only ran with 12.
Right.
And then he had to enter 3. There's nothing wrong with people knowing you, but having actual relationship with people, this is Jesus, who is God, who knows all of us infinitely, but he wasn't working.
Even that, I've been thinking about people that were alive and knew Jesus. They were seeing and hearing and walking and talking just like me, just living their daily life, but they knew this historical figure. And I mean, they probably were like somewhat aware, like, yeah, this is Jesus, we know him, but like, I feel like they will never truly understand. Billions of people around the world know your name.
Yeah.
But they don't like it, you know?
It's wild. Yeah, they're not here. But even back then, they didn't know. Until he left, they did. Yeah. They were like, oh, that was the other side.
It would just be me being friends with like, I don't know, just some dude from my college. And it turns out after he's dead and gone. And then I would have to cope with the fact that not only I can't go out in public anymore. That's when the perception really changes, because it's not people perceiving me just as a stranger anymore. And I have to like correct how I walk and talk. It's people perceiving me like they know me. And I think that's why I've been struggling so much, like why I can't conceptualize being a celebrity, because I feel like that would like break a human psyche. Like that's not meant to happen.
Well, I think it's that right there, the difference between stranger and knowing you. Because of social media, even if you aren't a celebrity in the sense of you have whatever number we want to put for what celebrity status is, because of social media, people see your posts, they see your pictures, and so they see you, and it's no longer, hi, who are you? It's, oh, I know you already.
Right.
Even if it's just like, even if you only got 3 pictures on there.
Sit here and lie. I'm not even going to sit here and lie. I definitely do have some parasocial relationships with certain celebrities, but I keep it to myself is the difference.
Which is fine. I'm not, and that's the thing. This is not a conversation to tell people like, hey, don't think that way. This isn't necessarily change how people think, but I'm like, if we're not aware of these things, that's what this like. So
how can it change?
Yeah, we're talking about perspectives first, because when I told you like, hey, this would be a dope first episode, mainly because if we're gonna be having candid conversations, candid is hot, honest, open, transparent. That like the conversation is only based off my perspective and your perspective. This isn't like I can only speak for where I'm at. You can only speak from where you're at. Like, because
that's another thing.
We could have this conversation a month later. Yeah, we could have this conversation a month later, and both of us be like you were just saying earlier today, we're like, my opinion on this subject, completely different. Like, completely different. And it's like, okay, but if we can't acknowledge that, like, I'm sure how long we do this, if I do this for years, couple months, if it's only 10 episodes, I'm sure there's going to be an episode I come back like, hey, we were talking about this. I was wrong. I don't think that no more. My opinion has changed. Right. It is what it is.
I mean, I guess going back to you asking why it was bothering me so much about knowing that people perceive me in such vastly different ways, I don't think maybe it wasn't that was really truly bothering me. I mean, obviously that had something to do with it. But on the flip side of that, me also realizing that the people that I know are vastly different than, how I see them.
Yeah.
And that's been really crazy to think about, especially as Genesis, our sister, has been getting older. Seeing her come more into her personality and really become like a person is like really, I don't know, like I've really started to realize like, oh, she's like I've always known, yeah, that's my sister. She's a person, she's human, but I've really, and maybe it's just me being like hyper empathetic nowadays, but I've just really been thrusting myself into people's shoes. Like, how does it really feel to be them? But I will never truly know that. And I feel like that's kind of making me, I'll only truly know how it is to be me. And that's really.
So let's take those two things. You can only ever truly know how it is to be you. You can only try to understand others. That's all we have to do, though. I think the problem is people aren't content being who they really are, but they also don't really they want to imitate others. They don't want to know how others feel. So like they want to imitate the good, but they don't want to know even for the good. How did you even get there? Do you know the work it took to get there? Do you know the struggles it took to get there? But like,
right.
But on like your basis of, hey, I really want to know you, there has to be the balance of not stepping. So if we have two houses, right? I'm a house, or I have a house, you have a house. My house is my heart, your heart, soul. Then we have a yard and a fence, right? We're across the street. I can walk out my house, wave across the street, and see your yard, and there's a garden in between. I'm like, hey, we can help work on this together. But anything inside our fences, and especially in our houses, that's not my job to go into your house and fix your stuff. Or the vice versa. Because first off, if I leave my house, not only am I going and intruding in yours, I'm leaving mine vulnerable. And I think people sometimes who are empathetic jump that direction, which I'm one of them. So this ain't something like people. I'm people. I do that. That's something I've been working on. Like, I can't just leave my house and leave it vulnerable and like, it's fine. And then I get back like, this is unfortunate. But at the same time, you have to be able to, that's one part of it. But at the same time, being truly who you are, that's something I think me and you both talked about and been working on of like, what does it mean to be all of me? In the sense of like, and I think in this day and age, it's so hard to be all of you because like I said, we're connected to so many people, or we have access to so many people that how do I truly be, because this is more is caught than taught. This is extremely true for children, but it's true for everybody. So if what I'm always caught around is like if I'm strolling all the time, if I'm always in the workplace, if I'm always around other people, it's very hard to know more of me if I'm never with me. Like I think like so in the Bible, it always says Jesus withdrew. So one of my favorite scriptures is that it said that he gained more and more fame. And as that happened, he withdrew more. Like the more like famous he got, the more he was like, and part of that is, yes, he went to pray and know his Father stuff. But I think another part that this just came to Holy Spirit, be Holy Spirited, that he had to leave because he's like, I need to know who I am. Because others will influence me if I give them more time with me than I give time with myself. And I don't think people understand that concept of like, well, no, I'm just strolling. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with seeing people's lives. But if all we're seeing is other people's lives, especially when social media is a highlight reel, 95% of the time, what perception is that going to give you about others, about yourself? Like the perception is going to be, it's always going to be, I'm not good enough, or I'm not trying hard enough, or I should do this instead, rather than moderating that and it being like, oh yeah, I'm doing my thing. And then, oh, you did what? That's cool. Maybe I can implement that. And then go back to doing my thing. But I think because of that like perception, and maybe it's because of so much access to other people, why people aren't self-aware. Maybe that's part of it, because I can't be self-aware because I'm never with myself. I'm always with the other people.
Right. You can't watch yourself if you're constantly watching other people. And I mean, that's true. Our society nowadays is just so like voyeuristic.
Okay, hold on. Can we pause? Let's pause for a second. Y'all, I'm pretty smart. I'm good with English. But all of a sudden, she want to get on video. And now we talk like this. But now she using all kind of big old phrases that she just pulling out the dictionary just. We go, you smart, relax. All right, you over here voyeuristic. And, what the word you use for celebrities, how you see celebrities? Pair or something?
Oh, parasocial? But that is the term.
Listen, it's fine. You use the correct term over here. Parasocial. All these words, like, what you? Who are you? A living dictionary? Get up out of here. Anywho, continue.
But yeah, that too. You just are. And I mean, I can't claim to... It's hard because you say that social media is a highlight reel, and that affects our perception of other people and ourselves into thinking like, oh, I'm not doing good enough. All these other people's lives are so good. They're so rich and so cool. And what's wrong with me? And that's true. I do feel like that sometimes. But at the same time, when I see too much candidness on social media, I get almost secondhand embarrassment from it. Like, a really good example of this is when, like on TikTok or Instagram, someone will get on and record themselves crying. I can never take that seriously. Ever. And they might be genuine, but it doesn't feel like it because me, when I'm sobbing my heart out, crying my eyes out, I'm not pulling up my phone and propping it up to record myself. That is weird to me.
Well,
so it's like a hard balance between wanting more genuineness on social media so we don't feel so inferior, but also knowing that it's not genuine. Like, you still know that it's not genuine.
So I think, well, even the thought of that, right, that the first thing to pop in our heads is to pull our phone out if we see something dangerous happening, rather than first thing call someone, let me record this. We see someone falling, let me record this. I'm hurting, let me post about it. That the culture now is we have to share it with everyone else. But if we just let's take this big idea and put it in a small box. If I fall, right, cut my arm all the way up and open, right, the first thing I need to do is wash it out, clean it out, and bandage it, right? I don't show other people. I don't be like, man, look at this wound. Like, even people with casts and stuff, they're like, look at my cast, but they don't show them the wound under, right? Until it's healed, and then they show them like, man, look at this cool. Like it's a cool thing to have scars and stuff. But the key thing about that is I'm still being genuine. I'm being genuine about my experience, but even in that, you can't truly, maybe I should put it that way. I think it's very difficult to be genuine in the moment of something happening, something that is hard, I should say. Big, like good things I don't think is necessarily hard, but like things that are hard, it's hard to be. You will have genuine feelings in that moment. And you can show genuine feelings to someone, but it's hard to have genuine understanding in that moment. Because in that moment, I'm hurting. So I can show you the hurt, but I don't really have a perception to actually think through the hurt until I've done some binding, and then let it heal a little bit. Oh, I can look at it. Oh, they put ointment on that spot. Oh, that spot's good. Oh, now it's healed. Now I can talk about it because I went through the process. And I think we're so big on the moment that we don't let the process happen. And so I'm like, I love when people are genuine, but I love when they're genuine after the fact, not in the sense of like, oh, I'm completely healed and I have no problem, but like,
exactly.
First off, let's be honest, we all have feelings. There's nothing wrong with feelings. Feelings should give direction. They shouldn't dominate. And when you're in the moment, feelings are going to dominate. So if you don't give a second for them to direct, oh, I'm hurting. Where did I get hurt? Let me take care of the hurt first, and then I can share my experience rather than, oh, I'm hurting. Let me share my hurt, because even in that, it's always going to come off in a way that either sounds genuine, like you're saying, like what, or people are only going to hear your hurt and they don't have any story behind it. So it could be, okay, for example, saying, let's keep the same idea. My mama told me to stay my butt in the crib, right? She said, don't you be out there in them streets running around at this night. I ignore her. I'm running, hanging out with my friends. I fall, bust my stuff, break my arm, right? I could tell it when I broke my arm and it was bad out, and I was like, I could perceive it as these. I'm still saying the facts of what happened, right? But I'm not saying the circumstances. I'm just saying, broke my arm and I hurt, and they was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Do you need anything? But I'm not telling them. My mama specifically told me not to. First off, because she knew I wasn't athletic enough to do this. Two, because she told me not to. But if I wait, I can still tell people later, yeah, I broke my arm. This is the situation. Mama told me not to. And then it's less of, I think, especially if we give it a little bit of time for healing, we can, when we tell on ourselves, it's testimony, but we can only testify to something we've finished going through. You
Right.
can't be going through it, because then you're going to want, because listen, if I tell them that, they're going to be like, so you ain't listen. But if it's later and I'm like, yeah, this is what the consequences, this is what just happened, it becomes a lesson
It
for
can be
others.
a teaching moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Rather than, oh, but I'm like, we also, I think in our culture, have to be willing to let people fail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we do a very good job, of letting people fall, because as a baby, we congratulate, we celebrate, we encourage failure. Baby try to roll over. You almost got it. Roll over. We help him, right? Baby start walking. He take one step, bust his mouth. He failed, literally. he literally failed. You pick him right back up. Let's go. They're going to do it 50, 100, 200 more times. Every time, pick him back up. 6 steps, then you fail. 5 steps, then you fail. We become not even adults, teenagers. A lot of that goes away. By the time we get to adulthood, it's expected that we don't fail. And we can say, well, no, we don't do that. Like, we're excited they started the business. I'm like, but it's not true, really, because people will start a business. And if you don't believe in it, especially if people don't believe in it, and you fail, oh, I told him so. That's what he gets. Wow. And that goes back to perception, right? Like how we perceive things. Because as a baby, we understand it that they're supposed to fail. The only way to succeed is to fail, right? Mm-hmm. But why did that somehow become a different thing when we are adults? How do we just skip the process? Because what people is calling failure is process. It's not failure. It's failure is only failure if you never go through the process. Too many people start and never finish, because God said he loves to see a work begin, and he says to finish strong. What's in between that? Process. Right. So we celebrate the start and we celebrate the finish. We don't celebrate the in between. So when 95% of us are in the in between and we fail, because think about it, like instant success, or like you see these TikTokers, most of them didn't have no failure. They had a video that people liked a lot, and they're like, oh, I might be kind of good at this. Boom. And oh my gosh, that's so amazing. But most people, there's that in-between process that if you don't have the tenacity or the self-perception to say, hey, failure is not falling, failure is process. And if I think that's why Jesus had 12 and then 3, like we all should, because not everyone's going to like you. This man, Jesus, went back to his hometown. He was doing miracles, healing the blind, the sick, opening blind eyes, all these great things. He go back home. They was like, we know you. Nah, you the carpenter son. All right, I guess I'll just leave here. And it didn't say that he just couldn't do miracles because, he can't do it anymore. He was like, but where I'm not received, I can't do it. Like, you have to have those people around you that's going to let you be in process. And I think part of that is them being able to perceive you. Like, yeah, we're all going to perceive things differently. But like I know you, Joe. Like, okay, for example, I'm going to put your business on Front Street. All right. You're in college right now, right? You love procrastinating. I think you enjoy it. I think
sure do.
Okay.
I'll literally tell you, I do it because I know I can get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter. I will tell myself I'm going to start this 2 weeks ahead just because, you know, I'm going to be stressed out, and I already know I'm going to be crying and in tears and miserable when it comes to the time, but I can still get away with it. I can still do it. So why would I take away this free time from myself right now to do something that I know I can do later?
So example, work in process, right? Work in process right now. But I know this about you, right? And rather than throwing you under the bus, and like, cause there's times that hasn't worked out, right? We just had a situation last semester that it ain't worked out well, right? I didn't throw you under the bus like, it sucks. No, I just was like, because those people who are close to you that have the right perception of you will hold you accountable while still loving you. Like, I'm not going to condone your actions. Like, I think we are in a weird place in society where if you don't congratulate everything I do, then you're condoning all of me. You can't correct something without condoning all of me, because I can tell you, we've had this conversation with all my sisters. I started young. Yeah. Hey, if you need help, ask me. I got you. I'm going to help you. What's the first question I'm going to ask you though, if you ask me for help on paper?
When did I get the assignment? Exactly.
And if the day ain't right, that's so unfortunate. The consequences, right? And it's never been, you never looked at me like, but you're just like, oh yeah. Because we've had this conversation, and it's not me saying you suck or you did. It's just, there has to be a process, and I have to hold you to some kind of standard. And not because, yes, you're saying you can get away with it, but already I can say from your freshman year to now, you're already doing better, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not perfect, but you're still doing better. Like, we have those conversations a lot less often than before. And it's the process. You're not failing. Like, you're not over here just, you're not in college anymore. You didn't do it once. Like, I'm dropping out of college. I'm done. I quit. We've talked about like, do I really want to do school anymore? But then we had conversation. Is just, that's part of the, like, I think people forget falling hurts. Whether you fall back or forward, it's going to hurt. But if it's going to hurt anyways, you might as well fall forward. Yeah. At least then you're making some progress. And when you get back up, you're a little closer. But I think people's problem is when they fall, they want to fall backwards, because back there is comfortable. Back there, they know what there is. Falling forward means I'm going to fall into something I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going to be there. I don't know how hard is that ground. Is there rocks there? What is someone going to catch me? But that's why I think we need community, though, of people to pick us up, to catch us.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree.
But I don't know. I don't know how we got to this subject, but
we got a little far from perception.
That's fine. That's how our conversations always take. That's how it's kind of conversation. We just out here talking. But I think going around to perception, right? If tying this together, that's how we got here. How I perceive you. You need people. All of us are going to perceive everyone differently, right? But you need people around you who don't perceive you like you do, but perceive you like God says we should perceive you. In the sense of, not see the best in them. Oh, just see the best in them. No, this is, I forgot who said this. I'm sure a ton of people said, I don't know who it's coined by, but people are going to show you who they are. They're going to tell you who they are. Believe them. Believe them. That's not saying, we don't see the best, but it just means, at least in that moment, for their perception right now, believe them. That doesn't mean I don't. You've told me. We've had a conversation. We're like, no, I'm just not going to. And I'm like, I know. And at the end, it's not you won't do it next time. It's just for right now, I'm not going to do it. And so I think part of that is, but if you have people around you who can, in some ways, right, only God can see you exactly how he created you. But if I can look at you and like, oh no, I see what's in her, and I'm going to hold her to this standard without condemning her, just simply correcting her, that's where the congratulation comes in. Because I can congratulate progress because there's a standard. But if there's no standard, then this is where we get participation trophies. Well, you were there, but you wait a second. And that's literally everybody out here that's running the streets, running them up. Only God can judge me. I'm out in these streets. Okay, this gonna be this. if people start commenting, I'm ready for all the smoke. People who are out of shape, and when I say out of shape, I simply mean unhealthy. I don't mean a weight. I don't mean a number. I don't mean we're all built different. I'm slim than a mug, right? But I could still be unhealthy. I have been unhealthy, and I know what that feels like. So for me, this isn't a size thing, but this whole movement of I am who I am. I'm beautiful in the skin I'm in. You're right. You're beautiful and unhealthy.
Right.
Like there is
a lot of, I think the problem is, and I think this goes back to perception actually, is that people don't understand that two things can be true at once.
Okay, so.
Which is why your perception of things might be true, but my perception of things might also be true, you know? But people, it always has to be one or the other, very black and white.
No, I like that. That's why. So Tim Ross said this. This is why I've been trying to say this and that, not but. But negates all that. It can be both. And I think that's part of the issue. Like I've seen people. I'm like, you're gorgeous. You should probably eat better.
Right.
Did I take something away from you? No, I'm just saying this whole movement of like, oh, especially in the music industry, or like these females who are like, yeah, I'm sexy, I'm fine, you know, I got all of it. That's great. I don't really care what you look like. That don't give a dang. I'm happy you love you. But if real love is taking care of yourself. Now, of course, there's conditions. This, like we said, perception. Well, we don't know what's going on with people's lives.
That thing of being like, yes, it maybe should be this way, but we also live in reality, so it's not that way.
Break that down for this situation. What you mean?
For this situation, I guess for people that are out of shape, yes, we should be able to just, you know, live our best lives and do what we want and enjoy ourselves and eat whatever food we want. That should be how it is, but it's not. We don't live in that reality. You know, we should be able to eat whatever we want and feel great about ourselves and, you know, not care about what we look like, and our health, you know, doesn't have to be a concern. Should probably, you know, that would be great. You know, but that's not how it is. That's not the reality that we live in.
Yeah. No, precisely. And it's neither a here or there thing. It's just, but nowadays, and we can talk about sin or not sin. We can just talk about unhealthy habits in general, right? You're a shopaholic. You eat too much. Whatever the thing is, like if we try to correct that, oh, you hate all of me. You just, so you judging all of me. We ain't friends. It's like, wait, if I truly care about you, don't I want what's best for you? And that's also a perception thing, because I might not know what's best for you. But that's why we have to be self-aware of what we actually need, but also willing the thing about perception is subjective. So for me to say that, I have to be able to say, and this is something I've been saying for the past couple of months, maybe a little longer, that like, hey, no, I believe this to be true. In fact, right now, this is my perception of it. Could it change in 5 months? Maybe, but I try to make that clear to people. I'm not saying what you're saying unless I truly believe or the word says like, no, that's wrong. Great. But for things that I'm like, I can't say, oh, I just know because I know. I'm like, no, this is what I believe. This is, and I can tell you why.
I don't have bandwidth.
Yeah.
What I do have is this.
Yeah. I have this perception. I could still actually be right. But the number of times that I've said, okay, for example, let me think. Okay, food, kids, everyone, our palate changes throughout the years, right? I'll never. That's the most nasty, despicable. And then they see you 2 months down the road. Ain't he saying water for me? Anyone that's known me from high school or before, they know this dude ain't drink water. I was at basketball games with not Gatorade, with a bottle of Kool-Aid, black people Kool-Aid, sugar, mixed water. That's where I was living. Now I hate the sweet stuff. Like I drink only water pretty much, but my perception changed.
Right.
Where I was like, oh, I need water in my life. I don't know what was wrong with me, but and back then you couldn't tell me nothing. You need to drink water. You need to mind your business. That's what you need to do, because I'm not.
Okay. Well, my current example of that right now is how I sleep. You always tell me that how I sleep is so bad and I need to change it, but yeah, you can't tell me nothing right now.
And listen, I know that about you, but that's the thing right there. I have the card. I have the shut up Joel card in your life. Is what I call it. That, and it's not. And the shut up card is not. I'm going to do what you say. Period. It's just I can tell you if you're doing some nonsense, you still have free will to pick what you want to do. But it would be not only unfair but unloving of me to just do what you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
And then because if your perception does change down the road, you're gonna be like, well, why did you let me, like, whether I agreed or not, like, why did you? I had that question.
I didn't say anything.
Listen, I had that question from Mom, why she let me dress the way she did in high school. Why did you let me go out in the streets looking like that? I thought you loved me. I thought you cared about me. Mm-hmm. But that's the same thing that we have to understand. Like, perception is subjective, and perception is your opinion. It's your option. It's free will. But you need to should be surrounded by people with similar perceptions and different perceptions, and perceptions that are looking forward, and perceptions that are willing to, if not change, at least listen. Because I think nowadays there's too many people who their perception is objective. Like, it's objective. This is what it is. Point blank. Period. Don't care what you have to say. It can be for you, and there's a difference between. Okay, for example, gravity. Gravity is objective. It's not an opinion. Your perspective can say that you can fly, but if you jump off that cliff, I'll tell you what you're not going to do. But then there's things that, okay, for example, so this is something I like to talk about. As a believer, my perspective of truth, right, will be different than a non-believer's. Because for me, this is like, you can say what you want, but no, this is the fact. This is what the word said. This is what I'm living by. But for them to not believe that and me to try to hold them to that standards is idiotic. That's like me going to visit Japan and I'm running around like, why aren't y'all living by America's rules? What y'all doing out here? Sir, it might be truth. And let me clarify for people out there. God's word is the truth. But I'm saying if you don't believe that truth, then it's idiotic for me to hold you to that standard, right? But that's like you telling me, hey, I really want to, like we were just talking about, I want to spend less time on my phone. Cool, you're telling me that because you wanting me to hold you accountable. That means I can speak into it. Doesn't mean I can make you do anything, but it means I can speak into it. But if you told me something else, Mama, if he was like, hey, I do what I want, mind the business. I'm on the business. Like, and I think that, I don't know, I think we're talking about perception, right? But I think what that really breaks down to is awareness, self-awareness and awareness of others. And I think the lack of that.
I think I would even say awareness, self-awareness, and empathy. Not just awareness of others, but empathy for others. Like, really understanding that is a person, not just not just the side characters, not just the extras. That's a person.
Break that down a little bit more. You said a lot in that little sentence. Go ahead, break that down a little bit more.
Well, okay, self-awareness. I guess one thing that is like a great example of this is just how people treat service workers.
Okay.
Or like non-skilled laborers, quote unquote. They don't see, I feel like the people that make the argument that if people want to be, making a livable wage, they shouldn't work minimum wage jobs. They don't see those workers as people. They don't understand that those people also have to pay rent. They have to feed themselves. They might have to feed kids. They have lives that they're living day by day, and this is the job that they're working to get through it. It's not as simple as just quit and get a different job. People that are yelling at the 16-year-old at the gas station. When I was working at Quick Trip, people would come in there talking crazy to me. Did not understand that I was like 17 and a person. Like, I'm not just like a slave.
Yeah.
Like, no one has enough empathy. And there would be some customers, and they were always my favorite customers, that would text me and say like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to be inconveniencing you, but can you do this for me? And I'm that customer. I always I feel bad for being a customer. I hate being a customer. If I go into a store somewhere, I'm going to make this as easy, as painless as possible for these workers, because I know how it is to be like them. I understand what their day by day is. I understand that they don't want to be working here, and they just work here. I understand that they're not. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, they don't live here. They're not an NPC that only works here.
Right. They're gonna get off in a few hours and go home and go back to their life, their actual life. We're all just like, we need to make this interaction as smooth as possible, and we could really do that by just having empathy for others and understanding that this person is just like me.
Yeah.
Would I appreciate being yelled at like this for something that I could most likely can't control? Like, if you wouldn't like it, why would she or he?
Yeah.
And I feel like that can be applied to so many things, because people don't see the people that they're arguing with or they're fighting with or, you know, they're having a disagreement with as another person who's also feeling just as much correct.
Yeah.
You know, they can't understand that, like, oh, this person feels just as correct as I do, and that's why we're butting heads. They always think of it as, oh, I'm the person on the right and you're just being bad. You're just being, you know, you're just being difficult, or you're just being bad and I'm right. Not that I might be being difficult for them.
Yeah. I like that. I think so. Perspective is not correct. Perspective is what I'm conscious of.
Yeah.
Because where my perspective is, I'm correct. Like you said, that's why we right here. And I think you brought up workers and stuff. I think this is workers anywhere, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves. And we've talked about this, like go out to eat or something, and I see someone be treating a waiter bad or like yelling or cussing, and I'm like, sir, first off, you do know they didn't go back there and make your food, right? They just brought the fork back there. And second, they're human beings. We all make mistakes. And so, like, even small stuff, like I was at the store with one of my friends, and there was something that dropped on the floor, and I didn't drop it, but it was just dropped on the floor. This is what I did. Picked it up, put it on the shelf where it had fallen from, and walked. Like, it didn't cost me no extra time in mid-walk stride. And one of the workers turned like, thank you so much. You're welcome. But it was a surprise thank you. Like, I can't believe you just did that. And I'm like, it made me sad. Like, it made me sad and mad at the same time, where I'm like, we've gotten to the point where, and I've seen this happen. I've been sat with people and they're like, well, why are you stacking the dish? That's their job. What did their job have to do with making it harder? Like, does me taking 20 seconds of my time hurt me versus everyone just doing their own thing? It's their job, and adding another 2 hours to this person's day. Right.
And they're still doing the job. They're still coming to this table to pick up the plates. Like, it's not like I'm taking the plates back there.
Wash these off for you. Like, yeah, I get they're getting paid, but like, if I can help make life easier for others, I'm making life easier for me. Because if we all looked out for one another, the world would be a different place. And we love to say that, no, I'm looking out for people, but I'm like, no, or even, okay, because of that perception, right? We're not changing topic, but another idea that came to me, we talked about this. The amount of people who do good deeds in public and or for social media, where I'm like, how did it get to the point?
The amount of people that record.
That, like, how did it get to the point that we are, oh, hey, let me show you. Hey, y'all got this? Watch what I'm about to do. And like, oh, I need to make sure I have my Bible from now on. It's in the other room. Oh, I want to get it. Okay. But it literally says, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And it's like that. If that's your thing, cool. That was your reward. Like, you helping that person doesn't change the help you gave them. You helped them. Fantastic. Your reward was the people.
Right.
I'm cool off that. Like, and I'm like, and it's not just, oh, that's your reward. It hurts my heart, because I'm like, what is it that you're trying to get out of showing other people what you did? Because first off, if your character is already, I love giving and helping others, people are going to see that whether you want them to or not.
Right.
Like Jesus, the number of times he healed people, he said, do not tell nobody. And they run around, Jesus healed me. Jesus healed me. Hey. He told them not to tell them. So I'm like, your character will speak for itself over time. But if what you're doing is, oh, let me show people what I'm doing, like, what is it that you're compensating for? What is it that you're trying to control? What is it you're trying to correct? And I think maybe all of those things combined is why perspective. What perspective are you hoping people have of you, or what perspective do you not have of yourself?
I think it's heavy on the what perspective do you not have of yourself.
Okay, break it down.
I definitely think that's a lot of the reason why people do anything.
Okay, break that down.
I think it's just mostly because they're always searching for the what's wrong with me, what am I lacking, and how do I obtain it?
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's a lot of people's motivation for a lot of things. And if in that specific instance where it's someone that records them giving some money to a homeless person, they're probably thinking, like, the people that do that are mostly, that I've seen, they don't present like that on their other, posts.
Yeah.
They're not like that. And obviously they can tell, like, oh, people don't see me as a good person. So what can I do to make people see me as a good person? Like you were saying, it's kind of like controlling the perspective of other people, or at least attempting to control that.
So it sounds like the issue, or a big problem, I guess, nowadays is not so much how people perceive me, but how I perceive myself. And because I think how we're talking is, oh, let me get these people to perceive me this way, versus have you spent time how do I even perceive myself? Because I think oftentimes we perceive ourselves one way, but we haven't even spent time to ask what that perception is. And all we're looking at is, how do they see me? How do they see me? How do they see me? So we're changing we can't even be who we are. Like, it goes back to, because we haven't spent time with ourselves. Like, I think COVID was garbage for most people, right? For those who got it, for those who died, that sucks. That is super sad, right? I know people that died from it. But for the introverts, the true introverts, oh, we was living our best lives. If the gym would have stayed open, nothing would have changed. I would have been just thriving.
Oh, no, I was perfectly fine.
Listen,
not going back to school. Everyone was, I'm going to be missing everything. This is so terrible. And when we were allowed to go back to school, I didn't. I did not take that option.
And that's the thing, though. Like, some of it is, yes, we extroverts, other people, we're made for community. Everyone is, point blank period. We need community. We need friends. We need all that, right? But I think it also forced a lot of people, not just extroverts, introverts too, because I think introverts are good at, finding other ways to distract themselves. But I think it made a decent amount of people take a second and perceive themselves. Like, oh, I have to sit here by myself in this. Or I made a dumb decision. There is no, I'll just go hang out with this person. I'll go do this. I gotta and I'm like, so I think maybe if people spent more time perceiving themselves, spending time, not how do I want to perceive, but how do I act in person? Because you can want something, and we always talk about, like, you can't go somewhere if you don't know, like, if you don't have a destination. True. You can't go somewhere, though, if you don't know who you are. You have to, like, if you put in directions, or you're like, hey, you go to your Google Maps, you type in a location, first thing it's going to ask you, where are you? I can get you there. Where is you, though? Because then I think so many people are like, I have my destination, but they'll never reach it because they don't know where they are. So they're just out here trying to impress people and get them to see them this way. And, oh, if I do this and I do that, and they never get anywhere. And they fall into depression, anxiety, or suicidal thoughts, or no one loves me, and all these comparison things. And because they never actually spent time to ask, where am I? It's because it's not a problem of, I want to get somewhere. That's not an issue. But in order to get somewhere, you have to be somewhere. And if you don't.
I think that's one of the reasons that some relationships fail. because that actually just reminded me of something.
Oh, pause. Wait, hold up. Let that marinate for a second. Hold up. Okay, go ahead. Continue. Go ahead.
Well, the TikTok that I saw, and I thought it was funny. I talked to Griffin about it. It was just some girl, and she was saying that, oh, I can never have a boyfriend because it makes me realize that I do have flaws. And I thought it was funny because it was kind of similar. When I got into a relationship with Griffin, I realized how many things about myself that I actually do have to work on before I can be, figuring out where I am before I can get somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I thought that TikTok was funny because it was basically her just being like, I'd rather be delusional about myself than work on it.
Can we take a second and congratulate this person? Can we? Because be honest with me, please. Please tell me, hey, listen, I don't want to work on me right now, big fella. I'm cool with me. I'd rather you say that than to be in a relationship and refuse to do those things. Because all of us are not as great as we think we are. And a relationship is just a start. Marriage, that's the crib of, oh, you're looking like, how did Tim Ross say that? It's me outside of me looking back at me, telling me about me. Mm-hmm. I think you word is slightly different, but that's what it is. And it's like, do you want that? Because if you don't, we're all going to have that. No matter how great of a person you are, no matter how caring and stuff, like, we all are selfish. We all are this, like, there's always ways to improve, and not perfection, but it's like, it reveals a lot about yourself. And it's like, I want to, whoever this TikToker is, hey, if you see this, and because it's not, oh, I'm so happy you don't want to improve. I'm so happy that you can be honest in your perception right now.
Right.
You spend enough self-time with you to say, hey, I don't want to. And I think
I just feel like that's miles more respectful than pretending in a relationship. Because what is that for? What's the end goal?
Yeah.
Because you're just going to pretend for the rest of your life, or you're going to get married and drop the act when they're stuck with you? Or like, what's the end goal?
Yeah. Or even,
how does it serve you? How does it serve them?
Or maybe not even pretending, but trying to be a perspective for someone else, because you know,
an appearance.
We spend so much time trying to figure out other people's perspectives that sometimes we know theirs better than ours. That, hey, I know they want this, so I'm going to become this. But the problem is, I don't think there's something necessarily wrong with, you shouldn't shift all of you to get with someone per se, but there's nothing wrong with becoming better for someone and for you, right? But the issue is,
it has to be for you.
You're okay. This is the becoming. This is where you are. You're trying to become. You don't know where you're at. So you're putting in effort going nowhere. Because we always talk about this, like, if you don't have a target, you're always going to miss it. That's 100% true. If you don't have a bow and arrow in your hand, you're always going to miss it, because you don't know where you're at. You don't know what you got in your hand. You over here, like, you got this target that's 500 meters away, and all you got is a pebble. That ain't gonna reach that far. You need to figure out where you might need to bring that target a little bit closer. Like, let's start right here. And I'm like, that, and this is not condemning anyone. I think we've all done this in some way, shape, or form, younger, older. Like, we can all have some experience with this. But, like, I think it breaks down to self-perception is more important than other people's perception, in the sense of, because the more I can perceive me, the more I become. Because you even said that I was more self-aware, and like, so I was more aware of other people, how they see me, almost detrimentally. But it's like, it starts with self-perception of like, okay, can I take a second to sit with me and even ask the question?
Right.
Like, okay, where am I? What do I actually think? What do I actually believe? What do I think about this subject? Because, and I'm guilty of this. I'm a people pleaser in the sense of, I like helping people. Now, you're not going to get me there. Peer pressure, they ain't going to work for you, boy. But if it helps you, I might do some. In the past, I would do some stuff that was hurtful for me, because, like, well, it helps you. But I have to understand, like, to perceive where I'm at first, because I don't want to become a different person for you. And I can't even lose myself because I don't know who I am yet. So it's, rather than losing myself, I'm becoming a fake imitation of you. Mm-hmm. There's never going to be there's never going to be another Aaron Cooper. There's never going to be another Joel Marshall. I can't be you. I can't do you like you do you. You can't do me like I do me. You can't. But we try. Oh, we try. And we get mad and frustrated. Or because we don't spend time in self-perception, we get frustrated with other people not perceiving us how we think they should. Well, if they would just see this, if they would change that and do this and that, then this would work. Okay, but wait, have you spent time with yourself to even know? Not because it's not so much about fix you, but you're asking them to come somewhere where you don't even know where you are, though. Come my way. Where are you? Right? Might reveal some things if you know where you're at. So I know, like, at least then, even if it's realistic that, they do need to come my way, they can't come where you just saying, come this way. And it's like, okay, well, where? How do I change? What? Well, I don't know. You just need to do better.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. Okay. And so I think their self-reflection, I guess, is another word you can put it. But I think the more people spend time self-reflecting afterwards, they can start interacting in the moment. So then I think feelings will be dominating until you learn to let them be directing. Ooh. That's how I feel. I need to write that down for myself. Feelings will be dominating until you let them be directing. And I mean that in the sense of until you spend time learning what your feelings are and giving them a chance to voice themselves and sitting in that for a second. Oh, that did make me feel that way. Why? What did that set something off? Okay, that means this needs to happen, or I need to work on this, or this is why it happened. Then it becomes directing. But if you never give yourself time to learn yourself, they're always going to dominate. And so, because now, I'm not always, but in the moment, I can go through that process in 10 seconds. Let me pause. Okay, let me respond this way. Let me respond, not react.
See, it's taking me longer to figure that out, especially, recently, what we've talked about before, or what we've been talking about just like my temper lately. I know exactly where it's coming from. I know like exactly what it is and why it's happening, but I'm not at your level yet where I have the ability to like do that process in 10 seconds. I have to go through the temper, and then like maybe 30 minutes later I can be like, I was doing too much.
Oh, that's funny. Hey, but I will say, I've seen your process for things, and so everyone, if you're going through the process, I have no problem with people progressing. So it's not that you need to do it this fast, but also you're 19.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm 8 years older than you. There's a little bit of a gap, right? But also I've seen your process for other things, right? Where it takes you a little bit, but when you get there, you're there and you do it well, but it's a process. So even the fact that you came to me like, hey, I've been feeling bad, I don't know why, like that's self-awareness. To even get to that point, you had to sit down with yourself and say,
like, why am I acting like this?
Yeah. Why have I been so dang mad? Like, because it's easy, especially in this day and age, to grind, to go, to get, and ignore. Like, that's why I hate those words. Oh, go grind for it. You mean what? Yeah, you got to put some hard work in, but if all you're doing is grinding, you're never going where you want to actually go, because you never pause to check your progress. You never stop to because even if I type in the directions, got my location, know where I'm at, know where I'm going, bow, push start, and I just listen to the first direction. Hey, turn the left, and I never check it again. Oh, I'm out here grinding all right, ended up in the wrong place, oftentimes worse than where I started. And I'm like, there has to be that process of evaluation, of people being able to say, hey, you're doing a little better, but not really. Like by now, like we love the progress, but by now there should be a little bit more.
Right.
But we've been talking for an hour and like 10 now.
Mm-hmm. And Sean just texted me for dinner.
Perfect. All right. Well, hey. Also, as y'all can see, I call it the do bop, right? It's the do rag and the bonnet. That's why I've called it for forever. I don't know if our mom started, but we got the do bops on. She and the PJs. We just out here. All right. This is Candid Conversations. All right. This is how me and her talk 24/7. We be chilling. But I appreciate you so much being willing to be on here with me and willing just to talk. Let people into our conversations, our nonsense.
Well, I think we're smart people, and I think we need to share it with the world.
I didn't say all that, y'all. I just wanted to have conversations with different kind of people. This is my sister, though. She is who she is. She was using them big words, all that vernacular she had in her back pocket, just sitting there. So, but anywho, I appreciate you so much, Joe. And yeah, we will catch y'all next time on another episode of Candid Conversations.
Mm-hmm.